all, welcome to the second edition of Research Methods in English Studies, wherein we are going to talk about the discourse analysis method. In the previous edition, we have talked about the textual analysis method in English Studies, the link of which has been pasted in the description box as well as pinned in the first comment box. So as far as the discourse analysis method in English Studies is concerned, then this method is used not only just in the English Studies but also in its allied disciplines. So what the discourse analyst or the researcher using discourse analysis does. The researcher performing the discourse analysis method is expected to analyze a particular text vis-a-vis the language used within the text. Means the types of language which is used within the text. Now there are the three aspects of languages which are used within a text in the process of the formation of the text by the creator or the writer or the author of the text. By text we also mean the written as well as the electronic texts such as the films, the movies, videographies, so on and so forth. So the producer of the text is culturally, socially and historically situated within one particular paradigm. Okay, so the language that he or she uses in the text, in the formation of the text, reflects the cultural paradigm, the social and the historical paradigm in which he or she is situated. So the language that is studied by the discourse analyst or in the discourse analysis method of research in English Studies, it has three different segments. First one is the lexical, second the grammatical, and third one is the semantic. So the lexical is concerned with the style of writing, the styles of words that are used in the formation of the text, whether more of the archaic words are used, whether the temporal words are used, the words signifying time, more of the words signifying the space, called the spatial words are used, the words are used, or the language, the sentence formation is done in a way that it performs the journalistic task. For example, certain authors write in a very journalistic manner as if they are reporting. For example, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, so if you read Gabriel Garcia Marquez, you'll find his texts to be highly in the style of a journalist because he was himself a journalist. Okay, so the language of the text, the usage of the words, the formation of the sentences, the styles of the sentences and phrases, they all combine to reflect, or to foreground the type of discourse or the type of idea that the author or the producer of the text is trying to delineate or foreground to the readers or the audience. And it also reflects the background, the social, cultural, political and historical backgrounds of the author without the author directly conveying his or her own ideology. For example, at certain points of time, the Marxist texts are written in a language that indirectly denotes the idea, the idea and the ideology of the author, right? Similarly, the right-wing authors would delineate their ideas using certain sets or certain groups of words or jargons, as we say. So these jargons and cliches form the lexical units within a text, and therefore while analyzing it we say that we are analyzing the discourse or the discursive units of a particular text by analyzing the style of the language, the collection and selection of words, the styles of writing the sentences and the phrases. All these combine to give us an idea of the socio-cultural political background of the author, as well as the situation of the text, okay, where should we and where can we situate the particular text, in which historical paradigm, in which social paradigm, in which cultural in which cultural space. So all these answers are taken by the discourse analyst through the analysis of the lexical units of the text. Now second one is the grammatical unit, or the grammatical aspect of the discourse analysis. So in this, as we know, the grammar is the rules and regulations which help in the formation of the language, okay, or which help in the formation of any official language, right? So the grammatical rules and norms are studied, okay, in order to find in order to find and situate the standardization of the language and the text, okay. For example, the resistant writers, say, just take an example, the post-colonial or the anti-colonial authors would use English as a tool against the English, okay, means against the English culture or the European culture. For example, Chinua Achebe, the Nigerian anti-colonialist, he would say that although I have written in English language, but I use English as a tool to talk against the Englishmen and women, to criticize their colonial and imperial agenda. Okay, so by using English as a tool, he uses English in a different method, in a different manner than the English authors or the European authors would use. So he combines the Nigerian, the Igbo, the tribal languages, the tribal words, the names of the characters are highly indigenous of the tribal groups which he would portray in his novels, okay. And similarly, there are other resistant authors and poets who use English to mock at English, okay. So these are the post-colonial or anti-colonial authors who use the particular English to subvert the grammatical units of the language. So by seeing the grammatical unit, the subversion of the grammatical unit, the abnormal usage of these grammatical units in the English language, we can understand that, okay, the particular author of the text is trying to subvert the English language and mock at the colonization as well as the imperialization of other cultures of the third world countries, okay. So any critique of the European culture or the Western culture would like to use the English language as a tool for subversion and for resistance, okay, against the colonial as well as the imperial agenda, okay, or any other ideology of the colonial world, okay. Now the third part is the semantic part. Semantic is associated with the meanings of the words, okay. So what are the meanings that you draw from the words or from the selections of the words within a text? This is something which is determined by the discourse analyst or by the researcher or the scholar performing the discourse analysis on a particular text. So the meanings that are conveyed through the usage of particular words, they highlight the cultural, political, social as well as the historical contextualization of a particular text, okay. Let's take an example. For example, there is a word, there is just an English word, okay, and that English word is used to convey an idiomatic or a satirical meaning, okay. So you understand that, here there is a power play of the semantic analysis. So the meaning of the word is subverted, means it has been satirized. For example, somebody comes and tells you, you are beautiful. So this particular sentence in itself is a text, okay. Whatever you speak, the conversation is also a form of text. The speech is given at any platforms, they also forms text, okay. The diaries, the letters, they are also the examples of texts. So when you say you are beautiful in a manner, or when you really feel that the person is not actually looking beautiful according to you, but you try to mock at that person's appearance and you say, oh, you are beautiful, then you are expressing it as a satirical word. Okay, so the word beautiful here reflects its opposite semantic meaning, that is, the person is not actually looking beautiful. And therefore this is how we analyze the semantic unit of the text. Okay, so the first one, while analyzing a text from the discourse analysis point of view, the first one is the lexical unit, where we see the styles and the collections and selections of words and phrases and the styles which are very much individual to certain authors. Okay, then secondly, we have the grammatical unit of the discourse analysis method. Then we have the third one, that is the semantic unit or the semantic analysis of a text in the discourse analysis method. Now, why we talked about these three different aspects of language of a text? Because these three aspects actually determine and locate a particular text in the discourse. These three aspects, okay, these linguistic aspects actually foreground the ideology behind a particular text and the ideology of the author or the producer of the text. Okay, say for example, if you want to portray a patriarchal society, okay, so let's take the example of Mansfield Park, okay, by Jane Austen. So in Mansfield Park, what happens that this character Maria, okay, she has to be shown as the so-called fallen woman. Okay, very typical of the 19th century portrayal of women. Okay, so this fallen woman has to be shown through the omniscient narrator, okay, who is always present. Okay, and this omniscient narrator would say, would use words, the narrator will play with the language, and by playing with the language, the narrator uses words such as misfortune, okay, or unfortunate, or words such as punishment, or words such as fallen. Okay, so these are the words which actually play a politics. Okay, so there is a power play and there is a power politics within the language of the novel, which tells you that there has been a concept of the so-called fallen woman. So Mrs. Norris is another character who wants to go and stay with the fallen woman called Maria and be her companion during her unfortunate, okay, remember, during her unfortunate days. And so both of them will be under companionship, and their temperaments, actually their temper, to quote, their temper would be punishment for each one of them. Okay, means they're not like-minded, they have temperamental issues, so that will be a punishment for both of them. So just check these words by the omniscient narrator. Okay, the narrator, actually the author particularly uses these words, these lexical units, these grammatical and semantic units, to convey the final fate, the ultimately unfortunate fate of the fallen woman called Maria in Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. Okay, there can be other examples as well, say in William Shakespeare's in Shakespeare's Tempest, the Tempest, the romantic the romantic comedy play, there is a character called Caliban. So he is the native of some unexplored and unknown land. He says, you taught me language, therefore I'll use it to curse thee. Okay, so now what happens that this has long been left without any critical comment, but during the last few decades, this has been analyzed from the post-colonial perspective, saying that Caliban was actually a native of the unexplored and unknown land, and that land was unexplored from the viewpoint of the European senses, okay, or from the viewpoint of the European ideology, from the colonial perspective. So the white man Prospero, when he reaches the island which is unknown to Prospero, the white man, okay, it's not that it was not existing existing, or the island does not have its own culture, or its own social values. It did have, okay, it always had, but the point is that it is only because the white man, the Eurocentric notion did not recognize it. It was called to be barbaric. Okay, so and even Caliban, the native, all the natives, all the indigenous people, they had their own languages, they had their own faith, but this white man, as the white man's burden, he would like to teach language, and that language should be English, okay, the European language. He would like to teach the language to Caliban, because Caliban's language is nothing, because the European man does not understand, and the European man, not only fails but also refuses to recognize the native language, okay, of this native islander called Caliban. So Caliban, at the end, things turn out in such a manner that Caliban, is punished by Prospero, and Caliban says, you have given me language and I shall use it to curse thee, okay, in Shakespearean English. So now, see the power play or the politics here, the linguistic politics under play here. Caliban, the native, although he has grasped the English language, but he would use the language to subvert the very, culture of the godlike figure Prospero. Okay, who is not only the so-called superior man, because he comes from the Eurocentric white culture, but he is also portrayed as a very great magician. Okay, so if he is a magician, he is a godlike figure, but still Caliban, the narrator, says that I'll curse thee. Okay, means I'll curse you. So, this is the power play of language. Here we see the cultural interplay, and the cultural dialectics, dichotomy between the colonizer and the colonized. Okay, not just as individuals but also as cultures. Okay, where Caliban's resistance is shown through his verbal resistance. He uses the English language. Okay, he uses the English language, the language of the author, because Shakespeare was the author. Okay, the language of the colonizer, because Prospero comes from the colonizer's culture. Okay, to resist, okay, and to offer a resistance and opposition against their own Eurocentric culture. Okay, so this is the power politics which we study while performing a discourse research or discourse analysis. Okay, similarly, the discourse analysis is further extended to Bakhtinian analysis as well as Foucauldian analysis, wherein the normal is often subverted as the abnormal and vice versa, because according to the discourse, according to the theorists like discourse analysts and discourse analytical theorists such as Foucault and Bakhtin, especially Bakhtin, the what is normal is nothing but it has been made normal, okay, through the prevailing dominant narratives within the socio-cultural and political ideologies. Okay, so the narrative which is made dominant due to the institutional and administrative power play, okay, and dominance, is said to have become the ideology or the discourse within a particular frame of time. Okay, and those narratives which are left in the suppressive or in the peripheral background is not even talked about. Okay, and the general masses often tend to forget them. Okay, so what is normal, okay, or what is dominant is actually nothing but the power play. It is just the political power play of the dominating institution, law and order, the dominant politics within a particular time frame. Okay, be it the historical text, the fictional texts, the media, or the history, the textbooks or whatever, so on and so forth, or even the conversations in a normal and common households. So Foucault and Bakhtin's here emerge as those cultural philosophers who actually talk about the normalization of the narratives as well as the denormalization of the narratives using the discourse analysis method. Now, before we end this edition, we should also not forget just one particular thing, how the concept of madness has been portrayed. Okay, so the concept of madness has been portrayed in a manner that there is nothing like mad, okay, in the discourse analysis method. So there is nothing called madness or abnormality. It is just about the dominant ideology or the normalization of one particular kind of psychobehavioral approach, which tend to denormalize, okay, and criticize, in fact bitterly criticize certain behavioral approaches and call them madness or something which is abnormal, out of the way, unsocial. Okay, so these are all the parts and parcels of discourse analysis method. In the next edition, we'll come up with the archival method in English studies and research. So in this edition, we talked about discourse analysis method in English studies and research along with its allied subjects. And this is so very much important from the viewpoints of the UG, PG and CUET entrance tests as well as Ph.D. entrance tests. And especially if you are a research scholar, it comes as one of the most important part and parcel of the English studies and its allied subjects. Okay, so in this edition we have discussed the linguistic point of view within the discourse analysis method, because the discourse analysis method is used when you analyze a particular text, be it handwritten manuscripts, letters, diaries, printed texts, fictions, non-fictions, plays, stories, any news item, media item, electronic texts, whatever it is, even the day-to-day conversations that we have, okay, the radio pieces, the radio conversations or the radio talks and interviews, all these are parts and parcels of the texts. Okay, all these are called texts actually, and discourse analysis method analyzes the text from the linguistic perspective, thereby correlating and situating the language to the socio-cultural, political and historical backdrops of a particular text to understand the historical contextualization, the social placement and the cultural space of a particular text and its producer. Now remember, the producer of the text can be anyone, ranging from the author or the writer of a book, a letterist means the writer of a letter, a diarist, someone who writes the diary, a painter, someone who paints a particular painting, because the painting is also a form of visual text, or a news producer, okay, the director of a film, the producer, the script play or the producer of the film, okay, the lyricist of a song. All these are the examples of the producer or the creator of the text. And a person who performs the research is called a critic or an analyst. So if you tend to perform a discourse analysis method, which is very common in English studies and its allied social sciences and humanities subjects, then you would be called a discourse analyst or a discourse critic. Okay, so in the next edition, which will be the third edition on research methods in English studies, we will talk about the archival method and how we perform the archival method in English studies research, and what are the pros and cons of the archival method research. So see you in the next segment of this edition. This is Sanya Khan on behalf of the Indian Institute of Studies and Services. Have a nice time ahead. Bye bye. Jai Hind.